Hey out there, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I'm Tim Echols, Vice Chair of the Georgia Public Service Commission, coming to you live from Sterling Planet up here in Avalon today. A great organization that does a lot of renewable energy projects around our state. Shout out to Sonny Murphy and all the folks here at Sterling for letting me use their conference room. Special guest today, Commissioner Myers, a newly minted commissioner in Athens-Clarke County, a place that I've spent a lot of time. Welcome, Carol.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. We're going to hear all about some of the cool things going on in Athens. We know how much Athenians love bicycles and walking. I'll probably share with you a couple of bike accident stories that I had in Athens, Georgia. And Liz Hausmann, Liz, nice to see you. You're a Fulton County Commissioner. You and I have known each other a long time, and you're at an event, so I've got you in your mobile studio, huh?
Yes, that's right. Thank you a lot for letting me be here in my mobile studio.
Yeah, you know, both of you are out there serving the public, and I don't think that a lot of citizens are aware of just how many ceremonial type things that we wind up going to. Liz, you do a lot of those every week, don't you?
Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm here at a luncheon for the North Fulton Chamber of Commerce at the beautiful clubhouse at Country Club of the South, right here in the heart of Johns Creek. Gorgeous day. We were going to hear from some film studio executives, including Tyler Perry Studios, which I'm very interested in since I serve on the Fort Mac Redevelopment Authority Board. And we are engaging in some new projects with Tyler Perry. So I will have to scoot as soon as I finish my segment so I can get in there and listen to what he has to say.
Yeah, well, great. Well, tell me a little bit about Fulton County's T-SPLOST program and the potential for renewal. I know that these T-SPLOST programs have been instrumental in building out infrastructure. Tell me about what's going to happen with yours.
Well, Fulton County was allowed in the legislation that created the program to be the first county. And so in 2016, we worked with our cities. And, you know, in Fulton County, we're very unique. We have 15 cities. In fact, we're now monitoring the potential of a 16th city. So, we don't know how that's going to shake out with the conversation about Buckhead becoming their own city. But we have 15 cities. 14 of them outside the city of Atlanta. And so we had to work with all these cities and come up with a plan that everyone could agree on. So we have a countywide tax outside of Atlanta that dedicates 0.75 of a penny, so 3/4 of a penny, to roads, bridges, sidewalks, typical infrastructure that is split by the cities based on population. The cities name the projects, they manage the projects from beginning to end, so they're totally responsible for it. So it's up for renewal. It's going to be on the ballot in November. So we're in that education phase right now of going to the community and letting everyone know not only how the first 4.5 years worked and everything that came from that, but what the future would hold with this new set of projects. So it's pretty exciting, Is it pretty much a no-brainer for other officials around the county in seeing the benefits of this? Is there any downside to the T-SPLOST program? Well, in life, everything does not always go according to plan. The engineers on the call here would probably attest to that. So, there's always a glitch here or there. But we can't focus on the problems. We need to focus on the success and what it's done for the community. Almost 20 years ago, when we started talking about forming new cities in North Fulton, it was mainly because of traffic problems, right? And so here we are with a solution that has really done a lot, to give these cities the resources that they need to address the many, many problems. And a lot of them may seem like small projects, but sidewalks that connects parks and schools to where people live, intersection improvements that allow you to get to your child's ball game or get home from work in time for dinner mean a lot to people. And so that's what these projects have been able to do.
Funny traffic problem story. So I'm sitting at Avalon now. So on December 12th of last year, I helped organize an effort to have a world record Tesla parade, the most Teslas ever lined up in a single line. And so this is a Saturday. I worked with the city of Alpharetta, the city of Sandy Springs. We started in Alpharetta at the MARTA Park and Ride, and we were going to end at the Westin in Sandy Springs. And I was able to get the state patrol to shut down Georgia 400, okay, on a Saturday for about 25 minutes, okay? Now, that sounds like a cool project, except I didn't know that Santa Claus was going to be at Avalon and that people were going to be getting to their Santa Claus appointments. And I got an email that evening from a constituent who said, my daughter missed her Santa appointment because you shut down 400 for a blooming Tesla parade. Of course, we were raising money to fight human trafficking. It was a good cause, but it didn't matter. It did not matter. And y'all have met constituents before. You know what I'm talking about. So we did shut it down. It was a successful event, but I sent the little girl a gift as a way of saying, I'm sorry, but Liz, I mean, you live up here. You know what shutting down 400 for 25 minutes would do.
Yeah, maybe next time you should do it in January or, some other time other than December. But.
Yeah, I think so. All right, well, what about some of the other transportation projects, transportation infrastructure going on in Fulton County? What do you have in the works?
Well, one of the biggest things we're working on outside of just trying to get the transportation T-SPLOS passed is our transit expansion plans, hinge really in large measure on what's happening with GDOT and Georgia 400 and the managed lanes and what happens with the T-SPLOS renewal. So we're still working through all that. But one of the really, really great things we're working on is modernizing our airport at Charlie Brown Field. A lot of people don't realize that is the reliever airport for Hartsfield. It's the only other airport in the region that has 24/7 air traffic control. It has a short runway though, and so you can't leave Hartsfield and fly direct to Europe because the fuel load is too heavy for our runway. So we're working with our federal partners and with our state partners. We've added a new hangar row, so we're expanding that. But our real goal is to extend that runway, improve that terminal so that we can have transatlantic flight directly out of Charlie Brown Airport.
Wait a second, you're talking like Delta out of Charlie Brown?
No, it's not commercial. It's all corporate, general aviation. But there's a big demand for that. PDK is full. They are totally full. Have no hangar space left. So, we've got, it's 10 minutes from downtown Atlanta by car, great location, and it serves as a security for Hartsfield, safety for Hartsfield. So it needs that runway for a host of reasons.
Wow. And that's going to be, so is it a 5,000-foot runway now and they've got to make it 6 or?
Yeah, it's got to be close to 7. And it requires a bridge to go over Fulton Industrial Boulevard to accomplish that. So it's a major project.
Wow. I was down touring a group called Nexus Fuels. They take plastic. I'm talking about all kind of plastic, and they basically run it through a boiler and distill it out to its original components, and then that oil and different components go back and make additional plastics. It's a cool thing. I was down there. It's just off Fulton Industrial. I hit a pothole, Liz, in one of your unincorporated streets down there. That thing must have been that deep. It destroyed my front tire. I had to, limp it over to this company and get a new tire. So I need to send you this address, don't I? Let you fix this pothole.
I do, because I would bet it's not unincorporated.
I sent it to Atlanta. They said, no, we think this is unincorporated.
The city of South Fulton now has the majority of Fulton Industrial Boulevard. We really only have the area right around our airport at this point.
Okay,
so
this
every
is
bit
away
of Fulton,
from the airport.
Yeah,
Okay.
every bit of Fulton is in the city, almost.
I was thinking, I'm such a hands-on official. I've got this trash pickup thing that I do with homeless people, and I was thinking about taking a couple bags of Quick down there, Liz, and just fixing it myself. Would I get in trouble for that?
I don't know. You might want to call the mayor down there and ask him if it's okay.
All right. All right. Let's keep going here. We got to get you back in the building.
I want to mention one other thing that's really exciting.
Okay.
We are in the final stages of our $268 million bond program to build 8 new libraries and renovate the rest of the libraries in our 34 library system. Mm-hmm. And the final beautiful, lovely, wonderful final product is our central library downtown. We took an historic Baroque style building that really is unaesthetically pleasing. It's not pleasing. It's a boxy looking thing. We've added windows. We've cored out the interior, so there's an atrium throughout all 8 floors of the building. It is spectacular. And we are going to have our grand opening in early October of that facility. It's going to be quite the show destination place for downtown Atlanta. It's going to have a cooking school in it, art studios. Technology is unbelievable. So I'll invite you to come to that opening, Tim, because it's really something.
Oh, wow. What part of town is that in?
It's right across from Georgia State Law School. It's right near the new Candler, the hotel that's been redone.
Yes.
Right, that intersection right there. It's beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful.
Awesome. Okay. What about public safety concerns in the region? I know that seems to be something. I mean, there's a lot of city elections going on right now, and I'm hearing lots of cities message this. Is this something that's kind of making its way up to the county level?
Well, yes. I mean, with all of our cities, we do provide the jail service, the court, all the criminal justice services go through our county. And so we are definitely focused on that. We are putting a lot of our CARES and federal money from COVID to fix that problem that we have with the backlog, $75 million worth, as well as other enhancements. I had a really interesting call this morning with our district attorney and solicitor's office with a recidivism program that is pretty exciting that we're talking about bringing to the county to help folks get out of that cycle. But, COVID has had a big impact across the board on our community. And while a lot of people have been isolated, it has caused, I think, a lot of behavior problems that probably would not have occurred. And a lot of them have unfortunately resulted in crime. And so we're very focused on it. We're working together. You see stories in the news that made it seem like nobody cares. That's absolutely not the case. We are working together, but we have a huge backlog of cases to go through, and the commission has agreed to financially give the resources to address the problem. So we are making progress. We don't want these people back on the streets to harm someone else, and we are seriously working on it.
All right, just 2 more questions for you because I know you got to get into this film thing. How can you not know that elections have been controversial, right? And you've called for a couple of separate audits, 2 separate audits, I think, at the Fulton Elections Department. So what's going on with that?
Well, I mean, everybody likes to think that, by fixing problems, it's going to change results, and that's not the case. But the problems are systemic, and they've been there well before the last cycle, where we had a pandemic and new equipment and a presidential election all at the same time. So that inherently had issues that were unusual. So, to say that there were not going to be any problems was unrealistic, but our problems go far deeper than that. And so I did call for an audit. We invested $44 million, Tim, in this last election cycle. That's larger than a lot of cities have for everything that they do. And so the audit results were very concerning. Basic issues of no standard operating procedures in the department, job descriptions that were not there, invoices that were paid without any verification that that they were due, even though they were well above what the original intent was. And so there's just a lot of basic management issues that were uncovered in that audit that we are addressing as well. In fact, we meet monthly with our mayors. I told you we have 15 mayors. So this Friday, we have our monthly meeting with the mayors. And so they've asked Mr. Barron, our elections director, to come and address the audit because city elections are right around the corner. And they want to make sure that things have been addressed that were uncovered in that audit and have confidence that the elections will run smoothly. So the second audit I've asked for is an audit of our temporary service contract provider, Happy Faces, because of what was uncovered with no job descriptions. If you have temporary workers, they certainly need to have job descriptions, or how else do they know what to do? And so I want to just make sure that we are addressing that piece as well, so that when we do invest in these things, that we have, good results, and that we know that money well spent. And if we need to change our processes, we need to change our processes. But it's not about trying to do anything with the result. That's not what this is about.
Okay, good to know. Just the last question. How has Fulton County navigated the pandemic? I mean, I think Michael Thurman is giving a large cash amount now, I heard. If folks get vaccinated, have y'all done the cash reward, or what are y'all doing over there and handling the pandemic?
Can you hear me?
You're frozen. So let's see if we get you back. Okay, you changed slightly. I'm going to wait for a second, Liz. I'm going to go to Carol and chat with her until you get back with me, because I'm not seeing you right now. Are you hearing us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. So let's go ahead and finish up with you, because I know you need to get into the building.
Yeah, in my mobile studio, I did have a phone call come in, so I apologize for that.
Yeah. Okay. Just tell me a little bit about how you're handling and navigating the ongoing pandemic.
Well, Fulton County had the largest vaccination site in the country at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in conjunction with FEMA. That obviously is not open any longer now that Falcons have started, but we're still doing as many vaccinations as we can. We started the booster shots today, as a matter of fact. So, but we have administered almost 5.5 million, 500,040 vaccinations in Fulton County. We have 10 mobile units that are out in the community, trying to go where the people are, especially in areas of resistance. So we're fully focused on that. And of course, testing has also come back in large measure because cases have increased. Thankfully, we're starting to see some plateauing on our number of cases. So we're hoping that things calm back down. But currently, it's a huge focus for Fulton County.
Wow, great. Well, have fun today with the movie people, and thanks for being on with us. We really appreciate you and the many years you've been serving.
Yeah, almost 12. So I'm happy to be here, and I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate you bringing your focus on local governments and your work. So thank you very much.
All right. See you later. Thank you.
Alrighty. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, Liz.
Hey, Carol, just me and you. Ted Terry will be on shortly. He's just finishing up the commission meeting, but let me first get your reaction to some of the things Liz said today as a fellow elected official. Some of the things that she mentioned, traffic, and these are all very practical issues, aren't they?
They are, and I was just doing a quick search that she has a whole lot more experience as an elected official than I am. So she's about a decade in front of me. I could tell the background knowledge and confidence with which she spoke on the different issues. And of course, Fulton County is completely different than Clarke County. We're obviously the smallest county in Georgia. We're a unified government, so that we don't have that tension between the city and the county the way I can hear reference to to what the cities are doing, versus what the county's doing and such. But there are similar issues. There's the COVID situation, there's a T-SPLOS, there's similarities in what's going on. So it's interesting for me to learn as a new public official, and hear the perspective of people in different counties.
Yeah, she was talking about air service there at Charlie Brown. I remember for a while back in the aughts, I guess, we had U.S. Air coming into Athens, and I would take the U.S. Air propeller plane to Charlotte, and then I could connect with anything. So it was wonderful. It was wonderful being able to go over to Ben Epps Field and do that, and then that contract changed. I mean, do you all have hopes that the Ben Epps Airport will one day again have a name brand airline in there?
I've actually, the airport isn't far from my district on the east side in Athens, and the person who's the chair of the airport authority lives in my district and is now a good colleague here. So I've gone over and visited the airport and learned more than I would otherwise. And there's new leadership there. I think there's a new desire to show how the airport integrates into the community, and they do have some plans for reaching out. I don't want to put anything out there in terms of promising anything, but they are looking at different I don't know, ways of structuring and getting some sort of some sort of airline in here for that kind of public service. I know I have family up in New York, and so I'm well aware of the flight situation, and also took that little propeller airplane to Charlotte. It was such an easier situation to go over there and park and just walk in. I'm sure there are a lot of people who would love that to happen here in Athens.
Yeah, let's talk about another form of transportation for a minute, and that is the Athens in Motion program, the bike and pedestrian plan. 220 different projects, which is stunning. I'm good friends with Andrew Saunders there.
Oh, yeah.
Your building services guy. I do a radio show in Athens every Saturday on WGAU at 8, and Andrew is a regular guest on the program, and he's talked a lot about these programs, but we just have a lot of constituents in Athens-Clarke, Oconee, surrounding counties that take advantage of our roads, trails, and certainly these infrastructure projects you're talking about. They're going to make biking even safer, right?
Yeah, I know Andrew fairly well because I worked on our 100% clean resolution, and before I came on to the commission and getting our T-SPLOS funds for that. But I also was chair of the Athens in Motion Commission and served on the citizen committee that put together worked with a consulting firm to put together that plan. And there's a lot of work we need to do in terms of people's mindsets in terms of thinking about that as transportation. I actually lost my bike computer downtown last night. And so before this, I went downtown to put up flyers around College Avenue, which is now closed to traffic and has all these wonderful picnic tables down there. And so I actually took my vehicle, my sister's truck, which I'm borrowing. Long story there. But most of the time when I go downtown, I have I have a bike barn, more or less, and I have bikes that are for transportation, and then I have my leisure bike. So I have a road bike and I have a mountain bike for leisure, recreation, fitness. But I also have I have a touring bike, which is really a commuter bike, and an e-bike that I use. And most of the time when I'm going downtown for meetings or such from the east side, I'm on my bike. I just turned 63 this summer. So I'm out there on my bike. The e-bikes, the electric bikes are just transformative for Athens. I can be down in City Hall in as much time as it would take to really get down there, find a parking spot, and walk in. And so we have this whole system. We have our Athens in Motion bike plan, which is really about connecting transportation and sidewalks and getting people places. We also have our Greenway and our Firefly Trail, which are recreation based, but interestingly for me, they end up being like cycling interstates for me to get over from the east side downtown. So we are building. We still have to work a little further on and changing people's mindsets and getting people out there. I figure the more I'm, riding around on my sparkling red e-bike with my, my flashy yellow helmet, the more that helps people see that they can do that as well.
Yeah, I had two bad wrecks as an undergraduate in Athens on my old-fashioned Swin 10-speed that I borrowed from my uncle. One, I lived at 208 First Street over by Chicopee Mills, right?
Yeah.
So I rented a house with three other guys over there. And to get from campus, I would go down, East Broad, and it was going to the river, a fairly steep little descend, right? But
Very steep.
There's a red light at the very bottom. So being the efficient guy that I was, I would wait at the top of the hill, and I had the light timed out so that I would take off, even though the light was currently red. I had timed it so I would take off, and then as I would get close to it, it would turn green, and I could take my momentum up, and I wouldn't have to exert any additional energy going up the hill. Because as you go down East Broad and up First, it is quite the hill.
Yes.
And one day, as I was waiting, counting down, and I dug into my pedals to start, the chain slipped off, and I went over the handlebars and slid on the asphalt just on my forearms. Fortunately, didn't hit my head, but I had this pharmacy roommate, Randy, and he likened himself to some doctor or something. And so I get in there, Randy, I'm bleeding. And, I can fix that. Rubbing alcohol all over my, I was screaming. It was horrible. The second one was I was real involved with the Baptist Student Union at 450 South Lumpkin. And I was president of the Baptist Student Union. And I was an English major. So all my classes were on North Campus. So I was heading to the Baptist Center, coming from maybe the Spanish building or something, and tried to hop the sidewalk on the curb, and the wheel came out of the spokes. I never did preventive maintenance on this bike, and the wheel actually dropped off, the spokes hit the ground, and then I wound up upside down holding the bike. So, bike accidents, they are a real issue. And I regularly pass bikers on the road, and I know how sensitive they are about cars. And it's just an incredible and dangerous thing going on when you have a lot of bikes out there. They're sharing the road. So, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah, no. I'm out off of College Station. Well, I just moved a little further, even out over there by the Kroger's on the east side. Do we have everyone here still?
Yes, we're good.
Okay.
I just got you on the solo.
Yeah. So we fortunately now I have the east side of Athens is wonderful because we have bike lanes along College Station, and that really changes your sense of safety. When it comes to riders and cyclists, in terms of a public official and also just a public, like a transportation alternative transportation activist, you have to realize that there are fearless cyclists. And then there are the cyclists there are people at the other end who there's no way they're going to go on a bike. And then there's people who are a little over who are like, if I feel safer with bike lanes, I'll do it. I realize when I retired from my long career at Athens-Tech, I flew my bike over to north of Seattle and rode my bike solo across the United States around the Great Lakes to Maine. So I am definitely in the fearless category, and camping, camping most half the time or more than that. So I understand that my mentality is different. But once you get in the greenways, the bike lanes, we're about to open up on Friday. We were talking before. about public events. On Friday there's another opening of our Firefly Trail, which is just wonderful. That goes along a railroad bed, and we're now going from the basically on the bypass on Lexington Road, half of the way out to Winterville. Then we have one more little section, and there'll be 7 miles that you can ride pretty flat from Winterville right into downtown Athens. And then we have the Greenway, which is another 7 miles. So in terms of transportation, that's wonderful. In terms of leisure and recreation, it's wonderful. And those are safe alternatives that people can go on. I recently took a friend of mine, Hattie Whitehead, who was one of the Linentown residents in the neighborhood that was replaced by UGA dorms, and she hadn't been on a bike in years, but we went out to the Greenway. She got on there. She's 70 years old. She enjoyed
Wow.
it. So,
Wow. Well, Commissioner Ted Terry has joined us. Ted, can you hear me okay? Ted, can you hear me okay? I don't know that he's hearing us yet. Ted, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, we can hear you now. Get a little closer where your head's about the same size as ours, if you could, in our three shot. So great. Ted, I know you're a biker as well. We're just talking about bike lanes. I know you're a biker, and you've got that trail in Clarkston, right, that connects?
Hey, Commissioner, I wouldn't say I'm a biker. I would say that I'm a commute biker on Tuesdays when I come into the commission office, depending if it's not really hot or pouring down rain. But yeah, the Stone Mountain Trail runs from Stone Mountain. It's one of the original bike paths in Metro Atlanta, built around the time of the Olympics, from Stone Mountain all the way into Decatur. And because of the work of several of the cities in Clarkston and DeKalb County, the Stone Mountain Trail is a contiguous bike trail all the way into our county seat. And so I, earlier this year, Commissioner, sold my pickup truck. It was a red and black pickup truck, I'm sorry to say, that I bought in Athens years ago when I worked for Congressman Barrow.
I've ridden in your truck. I've been there.
Right.
Yeah.
You've seen it. But, climate change is real, and I had to reduce my greenhouse gas emissions. So I sold my truck and bought an electric bike for $899. It's an EcoTrek fat tire bike. I got a little cargo thing and some fenders on it, and it's a 4-mile, leisurely 20-minute bike ride into Decatur. Mostly safe. There's a few dicey areas, but we're working on it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Carol, you sound like the real adventurer. You got all those different bikes. I know that on my radio show, I had someone from, don't you have a group called Bike Athens there?
Yeah.
That takes old bikes and they refurbish them, they donate them, to homeless people and others, right? That's one of the nonprofits
Yes.
in town.
Yeah, I was actually on the board of Bike Athens before I became commissioner. That was one of the things I gave up to take on this other little responsibility I have. Yeah, but I in the world of bikes, there are commuters, there are recreational riders, there are commuters and transportation people, all just of recreation. I have the fortunate ability to swing through all those different groups. Some people aren't, some of the people I ride fast with on the weekend would never go onto these trails or think about using the bikes to get down and commute to work. But I swing always in terms of bikes.
I was in Amsterdam, in Rotterdam, where there's a whole lot of bikes over there. In Holland, and I noticed there was a cool invention they had. It was called the Bike Scout, and we met with the company that had created the Bike Scout, and they had some other innovative safety technologies for highways. I was over there. By the way, for those of you watching, it wasn't a state expense. I used frequent flyer miles, so this was not nothing was expensed to the state. But this Bike Scout was cool because as cars would pull up, to leave, say, a parking lot, the Bike Scout was plastered all over Rotterdam and Amsterdam. And so it had, I guess, infrared sensors. And if a bike was coming from either direction, as you're pulling up to the sidewalk, it's flashing, red, which is telling you there's a bike coming. And so as a car driver, you were then able to go, oh, there's a bike coming. And so you creep up slowly to exit that parking lot. And because I know y'all have probably been in situations where a car is pulling out of some business or some gas station or whatever, and they're looking at cars and they're not really looking for bike traffic. I mean, Ted, you're laughing. You've seen this happen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to be sort of have a death wish or just a high degree of risk that you're willing to put up with to bicycle in any urban area, even any rural area for that matter. I mean, our entire infrastructure in Georgia, with the exception of a couple cities here and there, doing some bike lanes here and there, you have to share that road, and you have to cross over car infrastructure and car crossings, and people die every single month from bicycle accidents, and it's not the bicyclist is usually the least at fault because they're the ones that aren't surrounded by a steel cage. And so those mistakes are really, really deadly.
Yeah, I'd like to add something into that as well, because I think it's, Ted was able to give up his car. I still have a car that I use sometimes. But in Athens, we have a high poverty rate, and we have a lot of people who don't have cars. So with our Athens in Motion bike pedestrian plan, we had those, I think I said there were about 220 projects for sidewalks and bikes. And one of the things that we had to do was we have to schedule them. So we broke them into 3 tiers according to various criteria. But there was a whole criteria that had to do with equity, and that considered things like the number of people in the geographical area right there that didn't have cars, that relied on bus, that were living in poverty over a certain age, or youth living in poverty. And so I think that's really important. In terms of safety, I love that idea, Tim, of what they have in the Netherlands, because, I'm in a fortunate position where I can buy these fancy clothes that are like, I have this bright neon jacket that I just bought another one because my other one was so faded. But we have a lot of what they call essential riders who are using bikes to get around, who don't necessarily, and that's who the cyclists at Bike Athens work with, who don't necessarily have those bright clothing, who need the bikes to get somewhere. So sometimes they're having to go on roads that I might avoid because I know that they're not safe, but they need to get them there. So, the cycling and walking and the transit are types of transportation that are essential for a large swath of the population here in Athens.
Just as I'm sitting here, there's a charity project I'm working on right now in Toccoa, Georgia. They have a homeless shelter that provides about 300 showers a month. They do 3 meals a day. They have a literacy program. And I am trying to help them with this renewable grant program. And I've got a guy up there today kind of scoping out the site to write the grant proposal. It's through Taiwan actually is having a contest for American cities and counties to do renewable energy projects with Taiwanese supply chain, and they're going to provide the money for it. And there's this fantastic nonprofit in Toccoa that I recently found out about. But I probably should get with y'all because you probably have a project in Athens-Clarke. And Ted, I know you probably have something in Clarkston or around there that would qualify, and y'all could submit a proposal as well. It's a $150,000 grant for, for basically renewable energy projects, solar hot water, solar PV, batteries. So it's a really cool thing.
Well, Tim, get that to me right away. I am not able to participate in the Fox News piece that they're doing tonight on our new city-supported homeless encampment that we're in the midst of developing with a nonprofit or actually any profit or nonprofit agency that applies to run this. But it's gotten a lot of attention. And so, of course, it would need to have some energy because smartphones and such. I mean, you actually need a smartphone these days to be homeless, to call into the shelter here and get a space in the shelter at night. So that would be a wonderful addition to what we're doing there.
It would be. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Because, solar thermal, we used to have a company in Athens called Power Partners Solar that actually made solar thermal systems. But as Ted knows, solar thermal is just not a sexy type of energy, and it's just not popular. No one does it. It mixes solar panels and plumbing. And for some reason, that plumbing just throws people off, Ted, and they don't want to do it. But it is a fantastic form of renewable energy if you are using a lot of hot water.
Mm-hmm. Well, get that to me afterwards. You have my email.
Yeah, that sounds great. Ted, speaking of renewable projects, I know that you've been very involved with what's going on in Clarkston. It is kind of the refugee hub for the state of Georgia. That there's so many nationalities working there. I know I was very involved with the Friends for Refugees organization, helping them with their community garden and getting solar and a battery out there so that refugees could learn to work on the technology, right? Because there are a lot of clean energy jobs in our state right now.
Yeah, that's right. And I think we continue to sort of look for other opportunities to invest in the solar, energy and installation component. Although I will highlight one of the programs we've been undertaking the last 2 years, and that's the Empower Clarkston program. It's with Friends of Refugees and Tecton training and PV heating and air, and we've been doing the minimal low level lift, the low hanging fruit of energy efficiency. Insulation of the attic, sealing and caulking the little joints, light bulbs. We're talking about $2,000 on average energy efficiency improvements in homes and apartment units in Clarkston. We're not limiting it just to homeowners. Apartment units are benefiting from this as well, and we're already seeing a third reduction in energy costs for folks who live in homes or apartments that were built, 50, 60 years ago that didn't have the standard attic insulation or the standard caulking and other sealing of the envelope that you see in sort of new construction. And through that program, Empower Clarkston has trained and hired a cohort of between 8 and 10 people over the last 18 months. And so we're currently looking at American Rescue Plan funds to expand that program to do an additional 100 homes or units in Clarkston over the next 18 months. And so we're putting people to work, energy burdens being reduced, reducing power bills and greenhouse gas emissions. And the great thing about it is that some of the contractors we're working with are hiring the cohort, right off the bat, because they've got other jobs in other jurisdictions, because folks understand that with a $2,000 kind of, insulation and sort of seal the envelope, you can really recoup those energy costs in a short period of time.
Ted, I just love what you're saying here. Carol, I know that renewable energy is all the buzz and everybody loves it and everybody wants it and everybody wants a Tesla. But what Ted is talking about here is, he said low hanging fruit. And it is exactly what that is, because if you go in and spend $2,000 in one of these units, you are going to cut that power bill by at least $15 a month. Okay, so imagine that the power bill is about $150 and you cut it by 15. That is a 10% reduction right there. And if you do that at scale, you're talking about really changing lives for people. I know it doesn't, maybe if you're rich and out there, you're listening to us on this call today, you're going $15 is nothing. But if you're on a very tight budget, if you're on a single Social Security income or on some refugee income, Ted, right, where you're working at a poultry processing plant and you're having to drive 2 hours from Clarkston every day to go process chickens, that's a significant amount of money. And I really think that we probably should do that before we even think about putting an energy plant on somebody's house. I mean, let's start with the efficiency. Let's tighten it up and then move to something cool that's more expensive like solar. I don't know, Carol, what do you think?
Oh, yeah, I'm totally there with you and with Ted there. You know, we have this, it is 2 years ago this spring passed our 100% renewable energy resolution. And then we are really fortunate here because we then, and I was working with the group pre-becoming on the commission where I first got introduced to Ted here, and we have almost $16 million in SPLOST 2020 funds to work on our commitment. And it's for 100% energy, green energy for the county itself and our departments and vehicles by 2035, and for the larger community by 2050. But one of the things we put in that resolution was to address historical inequities in our community, and that's a real basic one. I mean, you know, when you're talking about affordable housing, which is a big subject. I mean, one way to make your housing more affordable is to work on those power bills. And I just had an opportunity to look through the first 3 chapters of our clean energy plan that should be coming out to the larger mayor and commissioner at the end of the year in January. You know, and we have a lot of people who have a high energy burden. Again, for those people who aren't, you know, watching, who never even think about how their energy bills burden them, this is the percentage of money that you spend on your power each month. And people have a higher than normal burden. And so going into those homes where you can do those low-hanging fruit, and there's no, you can't go and put solar on until you strengthen the roof and maybe put some more insulation in there. And so actually I just pulled up the City of Clarkston's Empower Clarkston program, because we do have some people in the community, myself included, who are working on ways to build that green job pipeline for people, especially for people who are living, who are in need of good jobs. And this is a job of the future. And so we have to be really intentional right up front in terms of getting those jobs here, how we're going to do it. And that's a thing that I'm challenged by, because that's a big word, a big phrase, jargon of the clean energy thing, is getting the green jobs. But how do you do that? How do you build that? Where does that capacity come from? And so that's really important. I just went into a new house. I'm a very middle class person. I mean, I have worked at a community college for years. My house is fairly moderate. I am going to be able to save up and somehow figure out how to put solar on the next time I change the roof. I can make that work. But if you're lower income, how do you even get to that place? And so these efforts, I think, are where you have to put your efforts first, because I'm going to figure it out. It's going to be economical for me.
Yeah, let me give you an example. I'm about to do just a small 2.2 kilowatt system on my house in Houston. It's going to save me this is a solar system. It's going to save me about $25 a month. But the insulation, and by the way, this wholesale, this is about a $5,000 system. Ted is talking about investing $2,000, and that $2,000, I mean, I'm just guessing, but I'm going to say $15 of savings right off the top, maybe more. So in terms of actually being able to get more bang for the buck, you do that with that insulation. That insulation works whether the sun is shining, whether the wind's blowing. It is saving that customer money. So Ted, if there's anything I can do to help you all down there to grow that program, I just really love what you're doing there. I think it's right on target.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great candidate for future consideration in the Integrated Resource Plan, Commissioner.
Exactly what I was going to say as well. Some incentives there.
We've got a program that we rolled out that I put into the Integrated Resource Plan in 2019. It is a low-income, exclusively for low-income homeowners, up to $8,000. $8,000, which that gets you a new HVAC system right there. and it's for Athens and Atlanta. And Commissioner, I'm not sure if you're aware of this program, but we are having trouble finding candidates for this program, because one of the things you have to do to get qualified is that we have to guarantee, because it's part of the rules we set up, a 10% power bill reduction. It has to have that, or we're not going to spend the $8,000. Because essentially what we do is put them on a different tariff, and that tariff pays back the investment. It's kind of an evergreen type of a program. But we have had, we've only been able to find like 80 people on this program, and a quarter of the people that qualified would not follow through with it. They wouldn't pull the trigger on it. And that's a group, and maybe half of those are from Athens. So those 12 people, I would love to give you their names, Carol, and have you reach out to them and say, hey, would you reconsider this? Because this is going to save you money. This new HVAC system is going to save you money every single month. And I mean, this is my baby, and I learned about it at the Verge conference, in California. I brought it back to Georgia, but I'm having trouble getting it to work, and it's killing me, because if it doesn't work, I know that we'll wind up just killing the program. And it's such a blessing to be able to spend $8,000 on a low-income person's house. I mean, how often would you have that opportunity?
No, I am aware of that program, and appreciate you, championing it in the last IRP. I would just submit that if it's not working, change it or introduce other versions of it. And, look, the $2,000 work, $8,000 of work, that's several days, if not a week's worth. The $2,000 work that we're talking about with Empower Clarkston takes place in an afternoon in some cases, or a day. And so I would submit, just from an equity lens, that if you put too many restrictions, barriers, if you need lawyers, if you need people, technical assistants, navigators, that you are creating inequitable barriers to people who really need it. And to just, like we said, just have a specific program that's just low income, low hanging fruit, what we can do right away, do quickly. And it's insulation. It's just sealing the envelope. It's just the fact that these buildings, we have so many neighborhoods, so many apartment complexes that just were built leaky and old or deteriorating after years and years and years. And also, I should mention, they also clean the ducts. And so the other things that we're finding is that these ducts have never been cleaned out, especially in some of these old apartment complexes. And just imagine in a home or an apartment where the ducts are so clogged and so, haven't been cleaned ever, how hard that system has to work to push that same level of, air to get that thermometer to read the temperature that the customer wants. And so they're probably even spending even more money outside of their typical, what would be, I think, an appropriate energy burden. So I would just submit that we should really, don't create a one size fits all, create some different tiers, some different deployments, different markets. I know you said Atlanta and Athens. I think, Commissioner, you might see DeKalb County intervening in the IRP this year. That's something I'm pushing for.
Great.
I think other counties and cities might be joining forces there. But, we want a piece of the action. We want to see some of these programs in DeKalb, and I know Carol and the commissioners there want to see it, expanded and completed in Athens as well.
And
I like that. Carol, hang on just a second. Ted,
sure.
just to put a bow on this, I'd like to have Jeff Smith, their Georgia Powers guy who does this, talk to the program director for this Clarkston program, because if it's working for y'all and you've got some data that's showing, okay, we're getting an 8% reduction with the $2,000 investment or whatever, it may be, like you said, we just need to scale ours down. Instead of doing 8,000, let's just do 2,000 and do more houses, right? And let's lower that magic number from 10% to just 8%. And so that's great advice. Carol, you were going to say?
Yeah, and I was just wondering what the outreach was. Into different communities that are lower income, and I think that there's the importance of having credibility of that trust and getting people who are already leaders in the communities that are low income to be advocates for the program, because there is a a question of like, how can someone be giving me this, and a little bit the credibility and trust issue. And so I'd like to, talk with you more about the different ways that you're reaching out in this program. So.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, as we wrap up, just got 5 more minutes in our call. We've talked about renewable energy stuff in Athens, the Athens in Motion. Ted, I know DeKalb County is kind of the gold standard for landfill gas, and you guys have displaced so much diesel with clean natural gas in your transportation fuels. I mean, there's no county doing more. I was talking to Hardy Davis, the mayor, yesterday in Augusta, Richmond, because they're flaring. They've got an anaerobic digester at their landfill, but they're just flaring the gas. And I found out about this yesterday morning, that they're flaring the gas. And I said to the mayor yesterday, just in an email, hey, there's some value. This is renewable natural gas. There are people that want this. There are Fortune 500 companies like Facebook that will buy these molecules. Don't burn them. I mean, yeah, destroying methane is great. It's 25 times more potent than CO2. But let's put it into a pipeline and burn it. Let's not burn it at the landfill on a torch. So I really think DeKalb County has a lot that they can teach other counties about, Ted. You guys have done great with that.
Absolutely, and that's true. We do have, we currently at the Seminole Road landfill, we have a 3.5 megawatt methane gas energy plant that just, the Georgia power lines go right through the landfill, so it just connects into the grid there. And then we are, we've been down on the rest of the gas collection the last few years because of some contract lapses, but we have an open process right now, a bid out to sort of, to bring that system back up to sort of full capacity. And you're exactly right. For this year was the first year that DeKalb County has more non-diesel fuel in our fleet. So we're about like 49% diesel, 47% gas, natural gas or methane gas, and then 3% electric. And so we're Director Gordon is always happy to speak with any other commissioners and other fleet managers about sort of his process. But Director Gordon will tell you, the gas stuff is great, diesel not so good, but the real total cost of ownership value for the taxpayer and for the environment is electric. We got to convert over to as much electric as we can. We know we can't, in the short term right now, get electric garbage trucks or other heavy duty vehicles, but they're on their way. And then I am aware that we have a lot of pickup trucks in our fleet. And so once that Ford F-150 electric truck comes sort of fully on market in the next year or 2 years, I hope that we'll have a lot more of our public works, our sanitation, sort of the heavy diesel users say, yep, I want an electric truck because it has more torque and more towing capacity. And then I think, I do want to thank the PSC and Georgia Power for the Make Ready program. We have applied and we're taking advantage of the opportunities to expand out our fleet electric vehicle charging infrastructure. And so we have 72 charging stations or capacity for 72 charging stations being installed at our Sam Street building, which is in Avondale Estates. It's one of our newest buildings that we're moving a lot of staff into. And so in the next 2 years, we'll have 72 charging stations and then, hopefully some solar as well.
Well, before we give Carol the last word, if you're watching today and the first 4 of you, not counting Carol and Ted, that email me at tim@timechols.com and say, I was on the call today, we're going to send you a $50 Cheesecake Factory gift card. So the first 4 of you that send me this email, you're going to get the gift card. So Carol, final word to you today.
Final word, here's it. In terms of power and transition, I feel more hopeful for us to deal with the transition to green power and away from carbon producing fuels. I feel more hopeful on that subject than I do on poverty, on affordable housing. We have a pathway forward for this. And now here we are. Here are 3 people on the screen now who are in positions where we can use our political power to make that happen. The technology's there. Let's make it happen.
Great. Well, Ted, thank you for stepping out of your meeting and joining us today. Good luck with all the stuff that you're working on. Thanks for your leadership.
Thank you. Great to see Commissioner Carol Myers in Athens. Hope to see you at the ACCG conference in November.
I will be there.
And I hope to see both of you there. Thanks everybody for joining us. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.